This podcast contains adult themes and language. The views expressed here are our own opinions and experiences. We are not medical professionals.
In this podcast, we discuss our opinions about mental health, sobriety, addiction, and our pursuit of happiness and peace. This is Sober Mind.
Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, or whatever time of day or year it is for you that you're tuning into this. Let's get started. My name is John. I am a 51-year-old. I live in the Midwest, United States of America. And I'm an alcoholic. And I deal with mental health stuff, like a lot of us do. My wife and I and my dear friend Patrick, we started this YouTube channel, and we have a live stream every Saturday at 10 a.m. Central Time. And we talk about our sobriety and mental health journey and how our weeks have been going and how we're dealing with life. And it's each one of our own personal therapies. My wife is an alcoholic. She and I got sober at the same time, and my friend Patrick, he's an alcoholic too. He got sober about a year and a half before we did. So today's stream is something I'm just doing off the cuff here. I like to do these live so they're unedited. They're a little bit more raw and personal. But what I'm doing is giving an update on my antidepressant discontinuation and withdrawal symptoms that I went through. We have a ton of videos on our channel, and the most viewed channel was most viewed video was me sitting down and doing an update on how my medication adjustment was going. That was, I think, in January of 2023. So there's been a bunch of comments and questions about the antidepressant discontinuation, how I did it, what my experience was, and where I'm at now. So I figured instead of just answering those questions, I've got some time on my hands, and I figured I'd sit down and do a quick update as to what I've got going on, how I'm feeling, where I'm at with my mental health and sobriety. I've got some notes over here, so I'm going to try and keep everything succinct since this is going to be sort of a ramble. But I welcome you to post some questions in the comments if you want. If not, it's a forever evergreen video, so all of my videos are living forever there on YouTube, whether they're in the live section or uploaded videos. So some quick background I think is important to give some context. In October 30th of 2021, my wife and I got sober. We have been heavy drinkers for 25, 30 years. And when I say heavy drinkers, what does that mean? Well, for me in particular, I was a functioning alcoholic like a lot of us are, but I would tend to get blackout drunk more often than not. I can't moderate drinking. Once I start, it just doesn't stop until I black out. So with that, I had started to develop towards the end some physical issues, a lot of mental health issues that I did not realize that I was inadvertently masking with drinking. I know that sounds super cliche, but I never intended to drink to mask anything that I wasn't avoiding anything from my past. But what happened was, as soon as I quit drinking, I experienced what a lot of alcohol dependent folks go through, and that is, in the first week, I don't think I had withdrawals. I think I had a little bit of a spike in anxiety more than anything. But my sleep started to become progressively better. I was getting more restful, deep sleep and feeling really good. And everything was starting to really pick up from that point. When I mean, I started to lose weight. Like within the first 10 days, my wife and I each lost 10 pounds. So a pound a day, which is insane. I know a lot of that's, water retention from all the shitty food that we've been eating while we're drinking and all that good stuff. But that was a good benefit. But for me, after about the first 2 months, that honeymoon period abruptly ended because I was not prepared for the mental health train wreck that was about to get unleashed upon myself. What happened was I started to become anxious. I started to suffer from panic attacks to the point where I had a full-blown panic disorder. It was really disconcerting. I had a hard time going to the store. I just had a difficult time functioning with a lot of things. So I started seeing a therapist and a psychiatrist. I saw a psychiatrist at the recommendation from my primary care physician who does not specialize in mental health. So he thought medication would be something that would be good to investigate. And he put me on Zoloft at the time, but recommended I see a psychiatrist at the same time so I could start to do proper medication management, which I did. Also, while seeing the therapist, I had a pretty profound epiphany, and that was that all these years of heavy drinking had really put a lid on my emotional development. I did not realize that I had been just carrying around a ton of repressed, unmanaged, and undealt with emotions from military post-traumatic issues and post-traumatic stress disorder from child abuse. So I started to work through that, and I continue to work through a lot of that stuff all the time. So that was good. Therapy was a really good place for me to go to start to talk about these things. But my anxiety and panic and depression were not getting any easier. They seemed to exacerbate a little bit while I was going through therapy. And when I discussed all of these emotions and mental transactions with my psychiatrist, she recommended that we go off of the Zoloft, and then she put me on Prozac. Prozac, I think, seemed to work okay with me, but I seem to have suffered some pretty deep, dark, dismal, depressive episodes while I was on Prozac. So, I mean, you guys, dark, deep depression. It was brutal. The typical depressive disorder effects of having zero interest in anything, zero motivation. All I could do was lay in bed and try to sleep. When I say try to sleep, that's because that's what it was. It was wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, dead tired, and couldn't get back to sleep, and then deal with anxiety and depression throughout the day. So my psychiatrist put me on a very low dose of Abilify, which is a mood stabilizer. That Abilify ride was something that really, really messed me up. So when it comes to mood stabilizers, you guys, be really careful, do a lot of questioning, do a lot of research, and see if that's gonna be for you. What the combination of Prozac and Abilify for me was, dare I say, maddening. I found myself spending a lot of money. I put myself and my wife into a little bit of a credit card debt because I had this bizarre, uncontrolled spending habit that was going on. When I read about some side effects later on, I discovered that a side effect of Abilify is compulsive gambling. So I didn't gamble, but I did some pretty wild spending on some things. So that's all fixed. We got out of that. Anyway, I realized that combination wasn't for me. So I told my psychiatrist that first and foremost, whether it was we quit the Prozac or the Abilify or something, I took myself off of the Abilify. I had been on it for about 90 days. And after about 2 weeks, I noticed a pretty profound effect of mental clarity coming back. I don't recall having any withdrawal symptoms at that time, but that's probably because we discontinued Prozac and I was put on Effexor around the same time. So I did a titration slightly with the Prozac and then built up the Effexor. I started at the typical, I think was 37.5. Then she boosted me up to 75 milligrams. By the time it was all said and done with the Effexor, I was up to 150 milligrams. And I still had a lot of depressive episodes. They weren't as dark and as dismal as they had been in the past, but my psychiatrist recommended that I add Wellbutrin to that as well. So I did. I can't remember what the initial dose of Wellbutrin was, but I ended up being on 150 milligrams of the Wellbutrin SR, not the XR. So it was just a sustained release, which lasts, I think, for about 10 to 12 hours. I would take it around 5 a.m. and go throughout my day. What happened with that combination, though, was that I never felt like I was just always teetering on the edge of anxiety and a little bit of panic. It was manageable, but it was just always there, very, very on the surface. And I would still get depressed. I won't bore you with all the depression details, but I had a depressive episode so bad that I had suicidal ideation. I was fully aware of what I was thinking, and I didn't ever think that I was going to proceed with that, but I laid in bed and I sure did a lot of what if I killed myself right now? And that was it was an internal battle. I had nothing, there was no reason why I wanted to end my life, but I think the combination of the medication was, it just wasn't working out. It was tearing me apart inside. It was just constant battle of which medication was going to win which fight, is the only way I can describe it. And when I told my psychiatrist about this, she immediately put me on another mood stabilizer, which was Depakote. Depakote seemed to work. I think it's off-label a mood stabilizer, but its primary function is supposed to be an anti-seizure medication. So I would take that at night, and man, I slept really well. So fast forward a couple months, I was out running. I'm an avid runner. That's what I do. That really helps my mental health. And that's where I meditate and spend a lot of time in my head getting to constantly know myself. I realized one day on a run that, so I had been a heavy drinker for 30 years. Then I quit, then I got sober, and then I was immediately on medication for anxiety, panic, and depression. So let me digress a little bit. SSRIs, SNRIs, they're, it's one of these medications that when you get put on it, you have to get on it, let it work for 4 to 6 weeks, depends on your genetic makeup on how it works. You notice an initial release of stuff. It's dealing with norepinephrine, serotonin, dopamine, and all those other things. They think. So doctors have gone back. They've started to say that they don't really know or believe that there's actually a reuptake inhibition that's done with serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine. They're not exactly sure how these damn pills work. So anyway, I realized out on a run one day, so I got sober, then I got put on medication. In the beginning, it helped. It helped me deal with panic and anxiety, and started to really get me to a healthier place. But I realized that after 2 years of being on medications, I didn't know where the hell my baseline was. I didn't know that where sober John started and ended. So I didn't necessarily set out with the intent of getting off medication and never being on it again. But what I wanted to do was stop all the medication and figure out where I was just without medication, to see which way I could go. And I think being off of medication would give me the opportunity to figure out, do I really have all of these things still happening? And if I do, I had a better mental toolbox to have different discussions with a psychiatrist about which kind of medication works and does not work. So I talked to my psychiatrist. I said, hey, I want to get off of the Effexor. Her response was frustrating. She said, no, it's too soon. And I said, I've been medicated for I told her this whole story of what I just relayed right now. And it wasn't well received, which was frustrating. So I made the decision to go ahead and just quit all of this stuff on my own. The problem with these pills are you can't cut them in half. They're coated to where, like especially with the Wellbutrin, if you chop that in half, you're removing the sustained release portion of it, and then you're going to end up getting overloaded with the Wellbutrin dose. The Effexor is tiny little pellets in a capsule form, so you can go ahead and taper that down and all that. Anyway, I read on the internet rabbit hole some horror stories about people quitting SSRIs, Effexor especially, and so the horror stories are people are 200 milligrams, 250, 150, whatever, and then they taper down until they get to 37.5, and then they quit, and then they have all these damn side effects anyway. So being the stubborn bastard that I am, I said, fuck it. I'm going to quit this cold turkey. So I stayed on the Wellbutrin. I quit Effexor and the Depakote cold turkey. I was only on the Depakote for, I think, 2 months, and I don't know if I had any withdrawal symptoms from that, but the Effexor was a wild ride for sure. The anxiety came back, not as bad as I had it before. It wasn't a full-blown anxiety disorder, but I had just a ton of restlessness, sporadic thought process all the time. I couldn't relax. The brain zaps were intense. I'm not going to even sugarcoat it. I don't want anyone to be frightened of this process, but just know that no matter how you get off of SNRIs and SSRIs, you're going to have withdrawal processes. So I just wanted to bite the bullet. This is not medical advice. Go work with your doctor or whoever and do what they recommend. But I just bit the bullet and went through it. I think I peaked with the withdrawal. I mean, like the heaviest portion of the withdrawal was probably about 8 or 10 days in. Yeah, probably about 10 days. I noticed at 10 days, I was a mess. It was rough. I couldn't turn my head to the left or the right. I couldn't move my eyes without just having an electrical storm, especially to the right, looking that way and up with my eyes. It felt like I was getting electrocuted. So I weathered that storm, and after about 10 days, I felt myself on the downslope. The withdrawal symptoms started to go away. The brain zaps, especially looking to the left or right, hung out with me for a good, progressively getting better, but they were still there after about 3 months. And so, mind you, I was on Effexor 150 milligrams for about a year and a half. So they are gone now, and it is September 20th, 23, and I quit cold turkey in April 2023. So whatever that is, 5-6 months. So after about a month of not being on the Effexor, I knew that I was still going through withdrawals, and that was fine. But I realized that I was good enough. I was out of the mental danger zone to where I could attempt to quit Wellbutrin. I quit Wellbutrin cold turkey as well. I had read about the withdrawal symptoms for Wellbutrin, and I knew it wasn't going to be as intense as the Effexor, in a sense that I didn't have the brain zaps and the anxiety. But what really caught me off guard was that after about 7 or 8 days after quitting Wellbutrin, I got depressed. I got depressed as shit for a couple days. Not as bad as I got depressed, but I never got as depressed as I did when I was on the medication, which is completely counterintuitive. So that went away after a couple days of the depression. The fog lifted pretty quickly. And so after about 3 months of being off of both of those, I had started to notice that the only way I can say this is that my brain was finally starting to heal. So it was finally starting to heal from the heavy drinking. It was healing from being off of all of these medications. My wife and I were kayaking, and I felt myself just drifting out there a couple weeks ago, and I felt peaceful and serene. And I looked at my wife. I said, "Babe, I'm fucking healing finally. I'm finally figuring out a good baseline of feeling good." I have not had a depressive episode or an anxiety attack or panic attack since I quit all the medication. So as it stands now, I will never go back on medication. I feel really good. I feel like I've found my baseline. I'm figuring out where my happiness apexes are. And, I wake up some days and I'm just in a shitty mood, just like a lot of human beings. I'm very conscious of my mental state all the time. I work very hard at doing a lot of self-work and rebuilding. I've tackled a lot of the PTSD stuff from the military and a lot of the child abuse stuff. So that's where I'm at. I was trying to figure out how to put this format together so folks could try to figure out if this is something that they should do. And the format that I came up with this is medication in the beginning helped me, I think. I'm not discounting medication. What I am discounting is the fact that there's no exit plan that the psychiatrists give you. They never, at least mine didn't, nor my doctor. It's just kind of like, just try it out and we'll see how it goes. That's what's frustrating with this. There's a test that you can take. I think it costs like $3,000 though. I don't know if my insurance covers it or not, but there's a test that you can take that'll tell you, like, hey, SSRIs are not good for you. SNRIs are good. Beta blockers, whatever. There's this whole thing that you can get done. So I'd recommend asking your doctor about that instead of doing the trial and error bullshit that a lot of us folks go through with this stuff. Now, I have a good friend of mine. She's been on Zoloft for a couple of years, and it's absolutely perfect for her. And she's on a pretty low dose, I think 75 milligrams. But anyway, so I'm not discounting medication. I'm frustrated by the fact that I was put on all of this shit, and I seem to have been getting progressively worse with the depression. It seemed like there was just no way out of this. Not until I quit all of the crap did all of these initial symptoms go away. So I know I'm not alone with that. I think it's easy for us to get sort of stuck in a period of, I need to be on this medication. I need to be a good steward of the process and go with it. But because you got these stupid bake-in periods, you make a medication adjustment, you got to wait 4 to 6 weeks. For me, it seemed like it never really baked in until about a good 8 weeks after each adjustment that I made. So shit, I don't know. There's between the Zoloft, the Prozac, the Effexor, the Wellbutrin, all of that, it was just a lot of adjustments. I'd always brace myself. My wife, bless her heart, she was super patient throughout all of the adjustments. Speaking of males especially, brace yourselves for a lot of sexual side effects. I dealt with it in the beginning, and let me just be candid. This is grown folk conversations. So erectile issues in the beginning were a real struggle. Then after several months, especially with the Zoloft and the Abilify, there was I'll just say it, ejaculation issues. So there was times when I just couldn't have an orgasm, which talk about the compounding frustration now on top of all the other shit that we're going through, right? So once I quit everything, all of the sexual side effects disappeared. So that was also a pleasant side effect, if you will. Yeah. So an exit strategy, if you decide that you want to get on this medication, don't take it lightly. Even 75 milligrams of Zoloft can have a pretty profound effect on your brain chemistry. So, if I had to do it again, I would go into we're suffering with anxiety and panic and depression and stuff. So we're not prepared to have these conversations. So, maybe there's folks out there like me that can sort of give you a heads up. If I had to do it again, what I would say to my doctor is, here's my symptoms. I need relief from this. I've tried talk therapy. It's not getting me anywhere. I need to be medicated. What can we do? And whatever we decide to do, what is going to be the exit strategy? I did not like hearing from my doctor when we talked about Prozac. She goes, you may be on this for the rest of your life. I was like, what the fuck does that even mean? I wasn't scared. I was like, well, if it gets, rid of anxiety and depression and panic, then sounds good, but it just made everything worse. So, have an exit strategy, talk about the plan. Or if it's going to be, hey, this works out very well for me, then, I'll be on it for a few years, but, have conversations. Don't just settle for, you're going to be on this forever. There's horror stories about Effexor, and that is because it's so invasive with your receptors that Doctors apparently have said once you're on Effexor, you're just going to be on it the rest of your life because the withdrawal is pure hell. I've read stuff on the interwebs about that as well, that people are just on it for years because every time they try to quit, the side effects, the half-life of Effexor is super short. So even when you miss a dose, you're going to start to have mild side effects. So when it comes to the profound amount of withdrawal for something, what I like to remember is Dr. Huberman said that, hey, if you don't think something is affecting you, then go ahead and try and stop it and see what happens to you during the stopping process. So yeah, Effexor, it gets in there and it gets its tendrils all wrapped around your brain. Hence the reason why when you quit, man, it just kind of fucks you up. I don't want to scare you. You will get through it. You're not going to die. It's just very uncomfortable, you know. Have a plan of attack for that too. If you're fortunate enough, like me, to be able to take vacation or sick time, depending on how that works, then, you know, take some time and just get ready to bundle up and watch movies and exercise and eat and rest when you can. I know, sounds like a heroin junkie going through withdrawals. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you a junkie, a heroin dependent or an addict. I apologize for those harsh words. So yeah, that's kind of what it looks like. I did have some cold sweats a couple times too, so that was bizarre. So there we are. After all of the medication discontinuation was done, I caught myself having a little bit of anxiety in the mornings because I had a certain routine. And that was, you know, I wake up between 4 and 5, depending on the length of my morning run. And I come in here and I have 2 or 3 cups of coffee. I've been a coffee drinker for, I don't know, 30, 35 years. And I'd go out on a run. Some days I would feel anxious. I had a couple of anxiety like meltdowns too, of anger and frustration. I'm like, this must still be discontinuation symptoms of the Effexor after several months. I've read that it can linger around until I again saw something from Dr. Huberman, and it was caffeine. Caffeine can have a profound effect on folks like us that have anxiety, panic attacks, and depression. So again, I figured, well, I'll quit it and I'll see what happens. And if quitting it doesn't have an effect, then I'll go back on caffeine, coffee in general, because I love it. I thought I did. So 2 days, one day after quitting, I had headaches, I had restlessness, I had just all of the weird shit that I wasn't anticipating, and tiredness. Oh my God, for 5 or 6 days, just zero energy. And I realized, oh my God, man. So caffeine was another thing that it's not good for my brain chemistry and makeup. So after about 7 or 8 days, it was gone and I felt amazing. My sleep, I never drank it late in the afternoon anyway. I would, I'd quit drinking it before 10 a.m. But, 2 or 3 cups of French roast dark beans. It's got a lot of caffeine in it. And I was pleasantly surprised. My friend Patrick, I told him about it and he quit caffeine too. And he went through some crazy withdrawals for a week and a half. Worse withdrawals than mine. But again, if you don't think something's going to affect you or has an effect on you, then quit it and see what happens during the process. I did it with social media, went through withdrawals on that. No more bullshit Facebook and Reddit. Anything that has a dopamine release or a dopamine endorphin effect on your brain, it's not healthy. It just can't be, unless it's something that's self-produced. Exercise, things like that. But yeah, haven't been on the social media platforms since April as well. So I quit everything and here I am all alone without anything, no crutches. But it's good. I find myself able to think clearly and be at peace with myself. Feels good. Yeah. So, okay, that's where we're at. I'm looking at my notes over here to make sure that I kind of covered everything. I know it was a long ramble, but thank you so much for all the people that have subscribed and tuned in to our small growing channel. Again, feel free to join us. Check out the videos that we have in there in the live section, or join us on a Saturday. Hell, call into the channel and have a discussion about. Call into the show and let's talk about what you're going through. We're not experts, but we find it extremely cathartic that we're blessed to be able to have my good friend that sits here, Patrick, and then my wife, Judy. She's out in our Zen room. It's on a remote connection here because I just got a very small office studio here. We can't fit 3 people in. But we talk to each other. We have candid, raw, emotional conversations about our mental health journeys and where we're at. So I'm going to end it with that. Good luck to you. We always say it on the show, be kind to yourself. Be patient with yourself. You know, especially when you're going through discontinuation from antidepressants, you're gonna be dealing with a lot of demons. So be patient. You're a human being. Just, give yourself some time and some flexibility and go through it. So also, I wanted to throw in there that I remembered this morning. I'm gonna make a YouTube short, I think tomorrow after my run, and upload this. That I was realizing this morning that when I quit drinking, I had kind of a strategy, and that was I told all of my friends, hey, because we had a lifestyle here in the Midwest where I live in the Kansas City area. We do a lot of smoking meats, barbecuing, brewing beer. So that lifestyle just all sort of added to the addiction spiral that I always had, my wife and I. In fact, that when we wanted to quit, we never talked to each other about it because we were afraid. But the weird rationale that I gave myself was I can't quit drinking because it's, what am I going to do with my new tap system or the new barbecuer that I built, and just all of that stuff. So it's all mystical bullshit that we tell ourselves and try to make an excuse for why we shouldn't quit and be healthy. Yeah, I can't believe we talk a lot about that on the show, about the calculus we do in the alcoholic mind of, well, I can't do this because that and this, and then you realize that those are all just illusions of problems. Your problem is you're fucking killing yourself with alcohol. So yeah, bizarre. Anyway, my plan was I told my friends, hey, I'm an alcoholic. I got to quit drinking. I can't moderate it. There's just no way. And lo and behold, a good 97% of my friends are no longer friends. They haven't contacted me. They haven't reached out. They haven't said shit in over 2 years. I have a handful of very good friends. Coincidentally, they're not alcoholics. So 2 of my very good friends, they can drink, they can take it or leave it. I don't know. It's one of those mystical unicorns that can have a beer or 2 and say that's it, versus a fucking 30-pack of Busch on a Friday night, which is me. So yeah, that was interesting to see. I miss some of the companionship, but I think what I'm missing is the illusion of that, and that is that we were getting drunk and having a good time. I don't know if I really ever knew those quote unquote friends. So yeah, I'm not disappointed, but I'm a little bit surprised that those friendships just ended from a positive action. My wife and I said we were going to quit drinking, and then those people just completely ghosted us. I don't know how that makes me feel. I think it makes me feel sad. But I don't know what kind of friendship I would have with some of those people unless they were sober. So I don't know. But at the end of the day, we have to take care of ourselves. You got to take care of you. And if people don't like you getting healthy and not drinking, then they've got some weird shit that they have to figure out and deal with. That's their fucking problem. So there we are. That's the story. Okay, so in a nutshell, if you're going to quit SSRIs, SNRIs, talk to your doctor. Once you make a decision that you want to quit, though, stick by your guns and go that route. I would recommend figuring out a good way to taper off, but just know that with some of these things, you're going to get to a stage to where when you pull the Band-Aid, I've read people get down to like just a couple pellets of those capsules, and then they, it just takes months or years. So I'm not patient like that. So I just quit. Just know that when you do quit, this is not medical advice again, but it's just going to be uncomfortable. You'll get through it though. Yeah. And if you are struggling with alcohol or drug dependence, if you think that, hey, I wonder if I'm having a problem with this, then you're probably having a problem with it. And I was really surprised and pleased as to how much easier it got once I started to talk about it. Just talk about it. It was such a barrier for me to tell my wife, hey, I can't drink anymore. She looked at me and she goes, fuck, I can't either. Why didn't we do this years ago? We talk about it now. It's like, well, we were scared. We were scared about the judgment we thought each one of us would give each other. So anyway, start to talk about it. Talk about your mental health. Talk about your dependence on drugs and or alcohol. Tune into a show like this and listen to people talk about it. After 10 months of us being sober, we went to an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and it's a fantastic place to go. AA and Al-Anon are great places. Alcoholics Anonymous for us wasn't going to work like we intended it to, because I think we'd gotten sober. We started to get through a lot of talk therapy and stuff like that. And I don't know. Alcoholics Anonymous is not for everybody, but get to a place where you can talk about stuff. Talk. And know that you're not alone. That's the other thing. As you know, in my heyday of anxiety and depression, I'm always waking up thinking, man, out of the billions of people, 6 billion people on this planet, me, John, I'm the worst fucking human being out here, and I'm the only one suffering with addiction and mental health issues. Shit, far from it. Everybody out there is dealing with something, constantly working towards being a better self. So, like I said, be patient with yourself, be kind. Okay, that is a long ramble. Thank you to everyone that left the comments. Add some comments into this, and I'll try to answer what I can. That's my story. Be careful of the internet rabbit hole too, because there's you go and a lot of people read what happens after 30 days of sobriety, what happens after 6 months. It doesn't matter what happens to anybody else. It's your experience and it's your journey. And we're all different. Like I said, I was pissed because after a month or so of sobriety, my brain completely unleashed a whole nother paradox that I wasn't expecting. And that was mental health disorder that I had buried underneath a pickled alcoholic brain for 25, 30 years. So everyone has their own journey, their own adventure, their own story to tell, and we're all completely different. So, my withdrawal symptoms, they might not be the same as yours. They could be better, they could be worse. I don't know. So Google is a fantastic yet horrible place to get information. So stay off those weird message boards and everything, because your mileage will vary. Okay. That is all. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope you got some good information from this. This was a little bit therapeutic for me as well, so I feel good. Thank you very much, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
If you or someone you know is struggling with mental health, please contact the Suicide and Crisis Hotline at 988. Also, if you need help with addiction recovery for yourself or someone you know, please check out Al-Anon. Be kind to yourself. Be patient with yourself. You are loved.
Thanks for listening. Check out the Sober Mind live stream at youtube.com/@sobermind.